Welcome to Live, Breathe Film, episode 115. You're here with Doug and Murph. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be sharing the TV shows of 2025 that we're most excited to see this upcoming year. Let us know if you're excited for these same TV shows, along with what else you're personally excited to see in the comments. Now, Doug, let's move straight into these TV shows. There's a lot of overlap among the TV shows that we ranked. Um,
Very
because
different from our movies where we almost had no overlap.
yeah, in our previous episode there was not a lot of overlap. It's actually the exact opposite. There were only three that overlapped in the last one. This time there's seven that overlap. So we're gonna do we'll start with our individual lists, but each of them only have three TV shows apiece, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, which is our Live Breathe Film tier, which has a shocking amount of overlap just because of how much quality television is returning this year, whether it be shows that haven't been on in a long time, or shows that are returning or shows that are also returning in after a long time and are ending. So it's a pretty exciting year.
Yeah, it's such a great year for TV.
All right. Well, you want to start with your three that you're most anticipating?
Yeah, so starting with the tier Dugs, like we did for the last episode, my my last movie in the tier Doug, and it actually winds up being my 10th overall is the return of Black Mirror. I don't remember what season this is of Black Mirror, but this is just a show that I really enjoy. I was a big fan of like Twilight Zone when I was younger, and the show Outer Limits, and this TV show kind of has that same similar vibe. Um, and so I'm just excited. It feels like a couple of years since this show came out. There's a couple of episodes that have been pretty critically acclaimed. Um, there was that one episode that came out, I think during COVID or around the COVID time, that kind of just was, and I think Murph, you had really liked it. It was kind of like it was a nod to just AI and it was using character
Well, yeah,
likenesses and
it was the only episode I ever saw of Black Mirror. Joan is Awful was the name of the episode. It was one with
yeah.
Annie Murphy. It wasn't COVID. It was June of 2023.
Oh wow,
Um,
okay, I was way off.
but it was like the most recent season. It was a season premiere. But again, it's Netflix, so they all aired at the same time.
Yeah, so that one, and there was that San
It-
Jupiter,
yes, I
which
remember hearing about that one.
that was one that was very popular. Kind of had to do with like love and uploading your brain to the after you pass away to like the cloud.
Yeah,
So they're very on like it's if you're not familiar with the show, it's Twilight Zone, but and Outer
it's
Limits, but with
modern.
like a
Yeah, that's
technology
a,
modern
yep.
spin to it.
That's
So
what
I
I
really
was
like it.
thinking.
Yeah, so I really like it. That takes me to the next movie on my list or
Next
TV
TV
show on my
show.
list, which is Alien Earth, which was my ninth overall TV show that I was looking forward to. Um, I like the Alien franchise. I think probably the biggest reason that or the biggest thing that's kind of gotten me excited about this is Noah Hawley being
One
the
hundred
one
percent.
that's yeah. So it kind of reminds me of it's an interesting property just because Alien, we're a fan of Aliens. We talked about Alien Romulus, how that we enjoyed that, and so just kind of to see what Noah Hawley, who's just had such success when it comes to TV shows with Fargo, Legion. Um, I'm just really excited to see what he can do with this, IP that's been around for a while, and I just know he's going to have probably a fresh, unique take to this IP.
Yeah, it was close to making my list primarily because Noah Hawley um, and the work he did with, particularly with Fargo. So he's already done work like adapting a movie and translating it to television and doing his own spin. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to work as well with Alien. It seems like it would be. I mean, I don't know. If you go back to 2013 or 2014 and say, is Fargo going to work as a TV show? The Coen Brothers Fargo movie. Oh, I don't know if I would be very confident in that. But Aliens on Earth, they did it once or twice with the only with the Alien Predator movies. Those didn't
Yep.
work. Obviously, this is very different. Um, but it's got Timothy Oliphant, a bunch of other returning members of Noah Hawley's troupe. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Yeah,
But yeah, this is
I mean
just kind of
Romulus just put
based.
the franchise back on track, so hopefully now it works in the TV world.
Yeah, and it's primarily Noah Hawley is the reason why I've got this on my list.
Yeah.
So then that brings me to the last one. It's kind of interesting. It's 10-9-8. So this was actually my 8 overall. So that tells you that my top 7 were part of that LBF tier that we had the overlap. Um, but this one on my list is kind of a show that caught me off guard with its first season. Didn't expect much and just really enjoyed it. And that's Peacemaker, starring John Cena. I didn't really care for that character or remember caring too much about that character in part of the Suicide Squad movies or Suicide Squad movie. He was only in the one that James Gunn directed. But this movie was, or this show was just so enjoyable. John Cena was a lot of fun. The intro was just so iconic with that like dancing. And based on the plot line, it kind of like it also kind of tied in and made it work with the body snatching. It kind of made the intro go from like fun to maybe being like, oh, is this kind of because they're under control by these alien bugs or
Uh,
whatever. But yeah, I just James Gunn obviously loves this story enough to continue it forward, even though it doesn't entirely fit within the new DCU based on the ending of Peacemaker. One of the pieces of Peacemaker where they brought in the suicide or not the suicide, the Justice League
yeah.
or
I mean,
members of the Justice League.
certain things have to be retconned for this soft reboot.
So it does require a little bit of retconning, but he obviously likes it enough that he wants to, he and has an idea for season 2. I know they're planning on bringing in Rick Flag Senior is going to be a part of the
Yeah,
show
so
with
Frank
Frank
Grillo,
Grillo.
so reprising his role from Creature Commandos.
And yeah, I just had such a good time with this show. I'm really just excited for this show to come back, and I trust in James Gunn that he knows what he's doing with this character, and he's going to give us another good show.
Yeah, this one just missed my list. Again, love James Gunn, but the fact that you had it on yours, we
Took
talked
the pressure
about.
off.
Yeah, we talked about Superman in our last episode. So we got James Gunn. I felt got covered by me for 2025. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it for all the reasons that you mentioned, and it should be it should be fun to see the adventures of Peacemaker and Vigilante, etc., continue in the new DCU. And I'm personally excited to see Frank Grillo in live action to see how that works. I know he's going to be in the Superman movie as well, but the fact that Peacemaker killed Rick
Rick
Flag
Flag.
Sr.'s son,
Yeah,
Rick Flag
Junior.
Jr., played by Joel Kinnaman in the Suicide Squad, um, seeing how that presents itself with those two going up against each other in Peacemaker season 2, and the fact that James Gunn's writing all these it just boggles my
I don't
mind
know how the man does
how
it. He's
how he
got like
does all this.
a time turner or
Yeah,
time machine
and
or some sort of way to get it all done. Yeah, it's just
yeah,
incredible
he's
how
directing a
much.
bunch of them, so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's completely wild, and it will be interesting. It's also the first time that I think we're seeing a character from Creature Commando crossover. I know Waller is a crossover character that we've seen before, but I don't think we've ever seen it go from a character that was introduced in Creature Commando
Correct. Yeah,
to being introduced into live action. So that'll be really interesting.
100%. All right, I'll dive into my tier of 3 TV shows. So for number 9 overall for me, we have The Righteous Gemstones, the latest in Danny McBride, Jody Hill, and David Gordon Green's trilogy of ridiculous television shows of men who are way more confident than they should be, and they're incredibly stupid people. So this ridiculous family is back with uh, John Goodman as the patriarch of a sort of swindling evangelical or televangelical um, family that includes Danny McBride, Adam Devine, Edie Patterson, um, the great Walton Goggins as my personal favorite character, Uncle Baby Billy. And really, anyone who watches this show loves this character. But yeah, just returning adventures of these ridiculous buffoons. We're on season 4 now, and it is one that doesn't seem like it's going out of steam, and that's a testament to the ensemble cast that Danny McBride and company have put together. So just nothing special about this one. It's not a final season or anything like that. It's been off for a couple years, but it's just one that I know I'm going to be laughing my ass off constantly from.
Yeah, I haven't watched this one at all, but I've heard a lot of really great things from people that do watch it. Heard it's kind of got like an eastbound and down kind of vibe to it. So
Yeah,
um,
that and Vice Principals definitely has the vibe of those two.
yeah, so maybe I have to check it out at some point. But that's why I didn't make it on my list. I just haven't really watched it.
Yeah. Um, then I had number 6 overall, Cobra Kai, which I didn't put in its first 10 episodes. So Netflix split the final season of Cobra Kai into 3 different chunks, 5 episodes apiece. The first
The
10
Netflix
episodes,
model,
yeah,
they're doing it all the time now. I think
it,
they're kind of realize they're trying to they're realizing that dropping everything all at once isn't the best model for keeping
exactly.
buzz and keeping people viewing. Wouldn't be surprised if one of these other shows that Netflix shows that we'll talk about is going to be split up kind of in this way.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting at least there's one show on here that I'm expecting to be broken up. But the first 10 aired in 2024, didn't make my top 2024 list. I felt fine not including it because there was a lot of really good shows, and I was like, all right, I'll put on one or the other. So I threw it on the most anticipated list of this year because, I mean, it's the final 5 episodes. So I'm excited to see how they finally wrap this show up. It's been on for quite a while now. We're on the 6th season, and it's really I can't even say it's the end of the Miyagi verse because the Karate Kid Legends movie with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan comes out in May, and these final 5 episodes drop in February. So we're really going right from one to the other. But this is the end of this group that has been working together on Cobra Kai, at least until they end up doing some spinoffs. And I'm interested to see if they finally bring in Hilary Swank from the next Karate Kid. She's like the only. There hasn't been a character yet from the next Karate Kid to make an appearance, but everyone they've brought in from the Karate Kid the first one or part 2 or part 3, they've done very well. Even if the character was not really in a good movie or a great character to begin with, they became a very interesting, fun character on Cobra Kai. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how um, Johnny and Danny's story ends, along with all the teens, Miguel, Robbie, etc. And yeah, I know you fell off the wagon at one point, but
Yeah, I really like the
I'm chugging along.
Miguel. Yeah, I like the Miguel and Johnny relationship, and I thought that was interesting. It just kind of seems like they might have tried to extend the story further than I felt
They
like
should
there
have.
was. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was like really like meat there to
probably should have
explore,
been a
but
4 season show.
yeah, but I did really enjoy it at one point in time, and I suspect now that's wrapping up, it's probably you know maybe course corrected a little bit where it feels more like there's a story there.
They're definitely back to the roots of Miguel and Johnny to a degree,
That's
more than it had been in some of the previous seasons.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but How I Met Your Mother cast or writers predicted the creation of Cobra
Oh
Kai.
yes, they did. Um, yeah, Barney, he knew the hero all along was Johnny, and And he is better than Daniel LaRusso in every way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
he is the Karate Kid.
Yeah, exactly. And then my number two show is another Netflix show. It's another show in its final season, hence why it's ranked so high. It's Big Mouth, the animated TV show from Nick Kroll. So we got Nick Kroll, John Mulaney, and many other hilarious comedians finishing up their absolutely disgusting, gross, yet very sweet um, look at uh, puberty and the ridiculousness that goes on for the middle school, high school kids. So it's on its eighth season now. It's had also two seasons of a spinoff show following the hormone monsters that really bring out I would say the worst in these kids while they are in middle school and as they've graduated on to high school. Because unlike most animated programs, these characters actually have aged throughout. Sort of like Cobra Kai, they've slowly aged each season. Um, but yeah, it's going to wrap with them, and they went to their freshman year of high school last season, um, and this final season is going to be, I guess, who knows how much of high school it'll go through. I would assume just freshman year, but they might decide to do something where it goes through all of high school. Maybe the last episode goes through their sophomore to senior years. But I know it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be the show I laugh at the most this year. Yeah, guaranteed. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about Big Mouth and why I have it ranked as high as I do. But yeah,
Yeah,
we can move on to the shows that we are fully aligned with. Um, Before we get into the top seven, that we did want to note two shows that we're not sure if the new seasons will be out this year, but if they were, they would have made both our lists. So we're going to mention them here. We have Beef, which we thought was just a limited series back in the beginning of what was it? It was the beginning of 2023. Um, but it ended up
uh,
being an anthology show. And so it's going to have a new cast this season, spearheaded by Oscar Isaac, Carrie Mulligan, Charles Melton, and Kaylee Spaney. Um, so while the first
yeah, great cast.
yeah. So while the first season just followed Stephen Yoon and Ali Wong as two individuals getting in a fight over a road rage incident, this is going to be a show with two couples, one slightly older than the other, and we'll see what sort of misadventures they get into and what sort of dark places as their rivalry escalates throughout the season. But yeah, not sure if it's going to be out this season. And then we also have Shrinking. Doug and I both loved season two, thought it leveled up from season one. There
Mhm.
was a pretty big gap between season one and season two. It was closer to eight, 18 to 20 months between like the
Yeah,
those seasons. So we're not sure if season three will be able to make it out by the end of 2025. But if it does, it absolutely will because, like we said, we thought it leveled up and it just has one of the best ensembles on TV. Um, if
yeah,
this,
that show's crushing it.
yeah, if this one does come out, it, Big Mouth has competition for something that I will laugh the most at this year because
Yeah,
man, did I love season two, and it balances that heart versus laugh
yeah, it does it
situation
perfectly, and
perfectly.
just they found a great way to use Harrison Ford because he's amazing in the show.
Yes, he is. All right. But for the shows we do know are definitely coming out this year, pending some sort of catastrophe. Um, we've got at number seven, Daredevil Born Again. Doug, you had this ranked number five, and I had it ranked number 10. So why don't you go start and talk about it?
Yeah, so this has kind of changed a little bit concepts wise from when it was first announced to kind of what it is today. I think when it was first announced, this probably may not have made my list at all, where they were kind of going to to create their own MCU version of Daredevil that I guess was kind of that character from She Hulk, where it was kind of like a little bit goofy. they scrapped that. It was going to be like 20 episodes or some crazy amount of episodes that didn't really make sense at the time.
The
But
episode count's still the same. It's just split into 2 seasons.
which makes more sense.
Yeah,
But anyway, the fact that they weren't going to include, although they got Charlie Cox back, and I think Vincent D'Onofrio was always going to be back,
yeah,
but
those are the two.
as his more comic booky version that we
The
saw in
Hawkeye
Hawkeye.
version. Yeah.
They scrapped that idea and they said, you know what, we had this. There was a show on Netflix, Daredevil, that people really loved, and because of the whole Disney Netflix relationship ending, I think ended when there was still fan interest in the show, especially for me, who have thought the third season was great,
Oh yeah,
and
major
a return
return
to
to
form
form.
after a second season that they tried to do too much, I think.
Hmm.
So anyway, the fact that it's a continuation of that Netflix show that I really enjoyed and was really bummed that they ended, I think, too soon on a show. They're now bringing back more of the original cast. Um, and just going to continue that story, I believe, forward from the third season. I'm just really excited for this show to come
Yeah.
back.
I mean, we got
Um,
what do we got? Eldon Henson and Deborah Ann Woll back. They've been there since the beginning as Foggy Nelson and Karen Page. We got John Bernthal back as the
Bernthal's coming
Punisher.
back.
Frank Castle. Um, and we've got the. I mean, they were setting up further problems with Bullseye in the end of Daredevil season 3. He's back. Um, the actress who plays Vanessa, that was a terrible attempt at Wilson Fisk. Vanessa. I don't know if that was better, but
I think that was a little better.
she's back. There were going to be so many recasts and just actors not coming
Yeah,
back, and now everyone's back, and this really feels like
it's
Daredevil season 4.
yeah, I'm so excited for it because like I said, I think the show deserved a season 4, and I think it was robbed when they canceled the show because of the whole Netflix Disney relationship ending. But yeah, this is so much better than what it was going to be, so I'm really excited
Oh
for it.
yeah, and I hope they bring back more based on the success of this one, because
It
this is arguably going to be the most anticipated MCU project of the year overall, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, and like it's I think, yeah, especially with how well Daredevil, or not Daredevil, how Deadpool and Wolverine did. This was a grittier, bloodier, brutal show in certain aspects. So I think Disney's gotten comfortable or more comfortable with that. So um, I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Next up, number 6 for tier LBF, we got the White Lotus, another anthology show similar to Beef, as mentioned, where each season follows different characters. Um, Doug, you had it ranked number 4. I had it ranked number 7. So I'll let you talk about it first.
Yeah, White Lotus is a show I've been watching since season 1. When they were it was a Hawaii episode. Really loved and enjoyed that episode. It's got a dark humor element that I think just works perfectly for me, and the dramatic pieces I also really enjoy. Just the was it Mike? Is it
Mike
Mike
White.
White?
Yep.
Yeah, is the writer of these shows and creator of these shows, and I think he's just doing a great job. He's knocked it out of the park. And then season 2, I thought had a lot to live up to. And I thought the new setting in Italy worked perfectly. I thought it was better in some ways than the first season, and I just really enjoyed that. So I'm really excited to see what they've got in store for season 3. I believe season 3 is we're going to and it's gonna have more of like an
Going to
Asian
Thailand.
culture. So we're going over to Thailand, which is not an area of the world that I'm particularly familiar with. So I'm just kind of interested to see it. I mean, the shots in both the first season and second season of just like the countryside and the landscape are beautiful. So I mean, it's just I'm sure Thailand. It's gonna show you like just a whole new perspective on that area, and then the cast. Um, Murph, I think you probably have the cast more readily available than I do, but
I
the
do.
cast of the show is just
Yeah, I mean,
killer.
this season we've got Leslie Bibb, Carrie Coon, Walton Goggins, Jason Isaacs, Michelle Monaghan, sorry, Parker Posey, Patrick Schwarzenegger. Those are just some of the names. We also have returning from season one. Um, it is Natasha Rothwell. She played Belinda. She worked at the spa that
Oh yeah,
Jennifer Coolidge's character frequented. So her character on season three is in like a like exchange program at another White
okay.
Lotus to learn things. But she's more as like a guest than as an actual employee. So that should be an interesting spin. Not necessarily the most like cartoonish character, not remotely cartoonish actually. Unlike Jennifer Coolidge's character who returned for season two, but a
That's
returning
gonna.
cat.
That's. I wish they've had found a way to just bring her into this third season because it's
Yeah,
just like she was such a highlight for me on the White Lotus shows.
yeah, if they figure out a way to keep Tanya's character alive some way, um, it'd be pretty cool. But yeah, we've got. I like the way you were talking a little bit about the show and how it works, but I really like the way Mike White gets audiences pulled in immediately by showing like something at the end of the trip that is typically it so far it's only been dead
Right.
bodies, at least one body, not knowing who that body is, or how exactly they died, um, and then it brings you back to the story, and ultimately the show is about just relationships and dynamics between different people, and the mystery is like just a way to pull you in, but it's such a smaller piece of the show than just watching these characters interact and the
Yeah.
explosive conversations and actions that take place between them. Um,
Yeah, I'm more interested in the character dynamics and where the relationships go than I am. I wound up being in the ultimate mystery that they use as kind of like a pull in,
exactly.
as like a hook in the first
Yep, that's
or
what
the
it is.
beginning of
It's
the
the
episode.
hook. Yeah. So yeah, number five, we have a show that our only show that actually aired a season in 2024. So and it's returning for 2025. So this is refreshing. A show that's like clockwork. It actually comes back every year. We've got the Bear. Doug had it ranked number seven, and I had ranked number three. It actually was tied with our number four show, but since this one, Doug, you had this one the lowest of any of us between the two shows. I let that be the deciding factor, which is why we're talking about the Bear first at number five before we get into our number four show. So the Bear, like I said, it's back. This one very much is a um, feels like a part two type
Yeah,
season. It definitely feels like the Bear season three was one long season that they decided to split in half, and now we are getting the Bear season three part two. It's from what I'm aware, they filmed about 70-80% of the season the same time they filmed season three. The season literally ended with a to be continued title card. So a lot of the story threads of season three are going to be resolved in this season, which should make this season hopefully pay off even more for both season three, what we ultimately thought of season three, and for
I think they will.
what we think of season four. Um, it should be more satisfying for those for that reason alone. Uh, but I mean, we know what we're getting from the Bear. We're going to get tons of chaos, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tremendous character work and performances. We're going to get a drama that is comedic, not a comedy with dramatic elements, which is why it should be probably in the drama category.
Unless you ask the Emmys, and then in which case it's a comedy.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see it move because of it not winning Best Comedy this past year. So we'll see about that. Uh, and yeah, we're probably going to get a little. They went very artsy with the direction of season three. Took a lot of
They really did, yeah.
took a lot of big swings. I would expect to see more of them in season four, but at the same time, I hope it goes back to its roots a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think at least how I felt about the Bear is I didn't think season three hit as strongly as season two did for me, just because I think season two had some really standout episodes, and I don't remember outside of, I mean, Napkins was pretty good in season three, but between
It's the
fishes
one
and
everyone talks
forks,
about. Yeah, I mean, you
and
bring John
season two,
Bernthal back. It's your episode of the season.
right? That seems to be the theme for sure. I think you're right though. I think season three probably is held back a little bit by it being a part one and it would seem to be a 2 part season, and so I really do think season three or season four will kind of pay off some of those things in season three and kind of hopefully make season three feel stronger in our books because we can see the seeds that were planted that get paid off,
Mm-hmm.
and then season four I think is I would be surprised if it's not a step up from season three.
Yeah, and we'll talk about season three more when we get to our best of 2024 episode because I know we both had it on our lists. Or no, sorry, I don't know if I've seen. No, I haven't seen your list, but I'm assuming it's going to be on it considering season four is on your most anticipated list. I could be wrong though, but I have
I
it on
don't
mine,
know.
so we're definitely talking about it.
Folks will just have to wait and see if it makes
Yeah,
it to my list.
as will I apparently. All right. Let's move on then to a show that we haven't seen in a damn long time. Stranger Things 5. Doug, you had it ranked at number 6. I had it ranked at number 4. So, like I said, it was ultimately tied with The Bear, but Stranger Things won the tiebreaker based on where you and I ultimately had it at its high, at its lowest. Um, so you had The Bear at 6 at the lowest, while you had Stranger Things 5 at, or sorry, you had The Bear at 7, and you had Stranger Things 5 at 6, while I
Right.
had The Bear at 3 and Stranger Things 5 at 4. But yeah, this is the final season. Finally, these kids, they ain't getting any younger. Um,
No, they're not.
they're
They're
in fact they're
it's
getting a lot older. Um,
yeah. It's hard to call them kids
yes. I watched.
when they're very. They seem to be. They're like drinking age at this point, right?
Uh, oh yeah. They're all adults. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown's married. Um, Finn Wolfhard is looks. I mean, he looked like a completely different by season 3. I watched
Yeah.
it chapter 2 last week, and which must have been filmed right after Stranger Things 1, and or shortly before Stranger Things 2, and holy shit, it is crazy. They had like the fact that they had the CGI him to make him look younger for that, like, is wild. I guess no, it chapter 2 would have been like around before Stranger Things. It would have been in between Stranger Things 2 and 3. But the fact that they needed
Okay.
to de-age him between two
It's
movies
so funny
that
too.
were
Yeah,
between
because
2 seasons, and
we're used to like the aging being like these older actors that are like trying to be like a younger role, like Harrison Ford in the like beginning of the latest Indiana Jones movie.
yeah.
Um, but like de aging somebody just trying to turn back the clock like a couple of years because of like puberty. Yeah, you're gonna get lots of changes in appearance and voice and things like that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, the first season took place in what, 1982 or 3? 1983. So it took place in 1983, and this final season takes place in 1987. Season 1 came out in 2016, and season 2's not, and this final season, season 5, isn't coming out until 2025. That's nearly a decade. Um,
Oh yeah,
Meanwhile, these were middle school kids. now they're married and they're fully grown adults. I mean, the older teenagers on the show are in their 30s at this point. So it's crazy how so much went wrong that took it so long to finally finish.
Yeah,
Because of COVID, the writer strikes, the actor strikes. But we're finally coming to an end this year. They finished
we're,
production of season 5 at the end of 2024. I think we were both alluding to this as the show that's going to probably be split this year. My
at least
expectation,
in two.
yeah, my expectation is we get half in the summer, half in October. Those are the two times we've gotten in the seasons in the past. So do think there will be a bigger gap between halves because they did split season 4 for the first time ever, um, but it was only like a month or so apart. I think in order for them to do all the post production and everything like that, and to actually get it out this year, maybe we'll get half in like July and the other half in October. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll get it split up even more. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I yeah, I mean the kids obviously being not being kids anymore is the thing that we've always laughed about.
yeah.
Uh, whenever talking about Stranger Things, I mean we've been making fun of that for like prior seasons when it was even less ridiculous. We were laughing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they did. I mean, at least I think why it's on my list is Stranger Things season 4 I think did a lot right. I think they found a good big bad for the finally like
Yeah, with
a
Vecna.
formidable big bad with Vecna, where he's more of like a Freddy Krueger like type of like humanoid bad guy, which I think does a lot for it. I think the kids being older allows them to kind of go much darker than where they've typically started with this season,
Yeah, yeah,
which is a positive. And then I mean they made that Kate Bush running up a hill song pretty popular. That episode I think is one of the best episodes of the show. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. I hope it I hope they just it doesn't feel too ridiculous with how old these kids are and
yeah.
just I don't know. It's gonna be probably maybe leave the. I think the parents have kind of been in it less and less. I think that probably is helpful so that they don't treat them like too young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and now they can finally kill their darlings because that's been the one big issue with the show is they've been afraid to kill characters because they just love them so much and want to bring them back. That's the greatest sin the show has committed is not having the balls to kill characters. I thought they were going to finally do it in season 4. They didn't. All they do is kill characters that debut in seasons for the most
Yep.
part on this show. Hopper should have died in 3. It led to the worst aspect of season 4.
Yeah.
But they love David Harbour and they wanted him back, um, and that led to the biggest creative mishap of season 4. Um, so we'll see now that as the show continues to get darker. Um, I imagine a lot of the characters are not going to make it to the end. We'll see which ones do, and one thing that I do find interesting is they somehow managed to have a time gap. I was almost certain that this was going to have to be directly after the last season because the Upside Down finally like opened in
Spills over.
Hawkins,
Yeah.
but yet there's a year and a half time gap between seasons. So I'm not sure how exactly that they're making that work.
Yeah. I suspect it's gonna be like they've been living with this upside down, spilled over, and just surviving,
Okay. Yeah.
which is I think an interesting take. And I don't know, maybe if they can right size the things will go back. No, you don't want things to go back in time because then they'd be even more out of place with
Yeah.
how old they are.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
maybe they'll DH. I mean, they go to the IT team and be like,
I mean
so how
this.
can you give us some of that old footage of DH Finn Wolfhard and then kind of work on all the other actors while you're at it?
Maybe they've had enough time there. They could have really perfected the de aging. I guess.
Yeah, no, Duffer Brothers have had a lot of time. But yeah, we'll see how this long running sci fi nostalgia teenage um, yeah, show goes in its final 8 episodes. I believe it's 8 episodes, and they're probably going to be long ones. I would expect like hour and a half episodes at minimum.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now let's move into our top three. Um, Doug, we have Andor at number three. This was number 8 for me and number 1 for you. So why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's listened to us before, heard me talk about Andor, knows that I love that show. Um, it's by far to me the best Star Wars TV show that's been created.
Yeah.
I I really love the way that Andor season one ended, which is just it's kind of weird because I'm not a huge. I like thought Rogue One was good, but I don't love it anywhere near as much as I love the TV show
Andor
Andor.
is way better than Rogue One.
Yeah,
Just like it's way better than every Star Wars TV show and probably every Disney Star Wars movie.
yeah. They finally found like a lot of the Star Wars shows don't speak to me, but for whatever reason, for I know I guess the reason the acting's great. I think the storyline of how watching how a rebellion forms against the Empire is really interesting. That just kind of we never got that right. There's
You're
already a
watching it from the
rebellion,
ground floor.
so just kind of seeing how a rebellion starts and how we get to the point where there is now a rebellion faction and they're stealing the plans for the Death Star. I think is really cool. And what really excites me about season two is it seems to be focused very heavily on like now that we've kind of had like that powder keg moment in season one where you can see the rebellion start to kick off, just kind of seeing how that furthers and how they kind of just seeing it just continue to build is something I'm really excited for. So part of this is just how much I love the Andor TV show, and then part of it is just the anticipation that's been building for me to see the show finally return. Is I'm just really that's why I put it at number one.
Yeah, and it's a final season. It's going to lead right into Rogue One. We know that while season one was in kind of like 4 arcs, but it all took place over 1 year, 5 years before Rogue One. This one is going to be 4 arcs with each 3 episode representing 1 year closer to Rogue One. So the first 3 will be 4 years prior, the second year 3, and so on and so forth.
Which is cool. It could be a good thing or a bad. I mean, I don't. Hopefully, it's good.
Tony
But
Gilroy will make it work. I have faith,
yeah,
complete faith. Um, but I had it low on my list only because there's an embarrassment of riches this year with TV. Whether it's long running shows that I love coming back and ending, or just long running shows I love coming back, and The Bear. Um, so I mean, I'm jacked up to see the conclusion. I mean, all the performances on the show are just so stellar. I was going to say so Stellan because we've got Stellan Skarsgård absolutely
he's so
crushing
good.
it.
He's so good in this show. This is probably one of my favorite roles of his. Is just like that. The dichotomy between like the character that he really is, and then like the the shopkeeper.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good. The Skarsgårds, man,
They're just
they're such a talented family.
they're Swedish Titans. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're absolutely killing it. All Hollywood royalty should be like jealous of them right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, not it goes so far beyond him though. I mean, Diego Luna to start. I mean, without him, there'd be no Andor. I thought he leveled up significantly from the TV series on the TV series compared to the Rogue One movie.
Yeah, for sure. He got a lot more to do.
Yeah. Uh, well, I guess Fiona Shaw, she likely will not really be back unless it's through holograms. But Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, Adria Arjona as Bix, the sort of love interest for Cassian, which I mean, spoiler alert, I don't think she's gonna be around for Rogue One because he's Cassian is sort of sparking up a romance with Felicity Jones's character right before perishing. Spoiler alert for Rogue One. They are the people that are responsible for the Death Star ultimately being destroyed by getting the plans. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, this is a prequel to a prequel, and yet they're making it work. It's crazy. So yeah,
Yeah,
it
completely
shouldn't
shocked.
work. I
No,
I didn't watch this because I was like burnt out on the Star Wars TV shows when it came out, and I was like, do I really need a prequel to a prequel to the first Star Wars movie? No, I didn't think I did, but it turns out I did. You get
I was so
you and
angry how
many others
unrelenting you were.
made, were giving me a lot of shit about how long I took to finally watch it, but I don't know, for a couple months after it ended, I finally did, and I conceded I was very wrong. I should have watched it from the start.
Segues perfectly into our the LBF number two tier, which was another show that I had told you to watch and watch and watch, and it took forever for
And
you
yet,
to.
I made a very smart decision, not starting when you did. Please
That's right.
talk more
Yeah.
about it.
So this show is Severance. I had it number two on my list. Murph, you had it as number five.
Mm.
As you kind of alluded to, it feels like we've been waiting a pretty long time for Severance to come back. I think it was the first time I had actually gotten COVID is when I watched this show. So that kind of probably tells you it must have been around like the 2021, 2022 time frame. Um, just because that's when, some of the restrictions started to really lift. Um, Severance is a show that I had gotten into after I think the majority of the episodes had already aired. It's such a weird, quirky show. It's very high concept of for folks that aren't familiar with what Severance is. It's kind of like it's a sci-fi show where what happens is you basically can sever the work self from your at-home self. So while for me and you Murph who are like outside of work right now, when you clock into the office, it's just instantaneous. You're just right. You're not part of that work life. You just kind of up. It's just instantaneous. Like a second goes by and you're like, okay, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
But then, which sounds great, and you can see why people would sign up for it because it's like, cool, I didn't have to really work at all. But the other half of it is
The other
that
half
you
is
have
torture.
the torture for the other half of you that's always at work and knows nothing but having to clock in to work and clock out and then basically instantaneously clock back into work every day. So it's a really cool concept. It's like I said, I think it's kind of high concept sci-fi.
Very high
Um,
concept sci-fi.
but there's like kind of this like dark comedy element that I just kind of love, and it's just very creative. Ben Stiller is, does some really interesting things directing, and so this movie probably is so high on my list. One, because I think Severance is probably one of my favorite shows, at least in the last decade, and two, they've been keeping me waiting so damn long for this show. I'm just like so excited for it to finally be back. And so far, there's been some reviews out, and it seems like it's being received positively, which is very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what you said about when it first aired. I mean, it started back. It the series premiere was February 18th, 2022. So it is going to be nearly 3 years um, for the follow-up season, which is absolutely wild for a show like this, because it's not something that has massive special effects or anything like that. There's just a lot that didn't a lot of things that went on behind the scenes, outside of just the writer's strike and actor strike, creative changes, but ultimately they made sure that they returned with the bar set as high as it was, that they actually made sure they hit it, from what we're hearing from critics. By the time this episode airs, we will have seen probably a couple episodes. Who knows how many? But yeah, I'm gonna say I was smart because I didn't have to suffer nearly 3 years because I didn't start it in 2022. You pestered me for years. I didn't start watching it until spring 2024, and I watched it real quick, and I was like, "Yep, you were right. Great, fantastic show." And yet I still had to wait like 8 months, and I'm like, "What the hell?" Like it ends on such a cliffhanger, like that you just want to go right into like more like
Yeah.
the next episode, and I couldn't imagine having to wait nearly 3 years um,
It's worth it.
after the season finale of the first season.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely been a long time, and I think that's probably maybe an attributing factor to why it's higher on my list than yours. It's just
yeah,
kind of
it definitely is.
some of
But
the anticipation.
I would say it's like, I mean, because you count the Bear, if like assuming the Bear counts as a drama or as a comedy, this is the best drama on television, I would say,
It's
at this
so good.
point. So like it's not like no one thought it's not an anthology show or anything, but even if it was, this is the best drama on television based on season one. So if it could, the bar is as high as last season. I mean, I could definitely see it. While I have it at 5 for anticipated, I could see it going as high as number 1 for best of for the year based on what we're hearing so far.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for the show to come back. I'm very excited, and um, yeah, I'm just anxious for it to get finally start dropping on
Yeah,
Apple TV. Who I mean has been kind of crushing it for TV shows when
but
you
they
think
have.
about it.
Yeah. And yeah, shout out to the cast led by Adam Scott. Him, Zach Cherry, Burt Lauer, and John Turturro make quite the four set of office workers, office drones, who don't know what they're doing in the office. They're just working on some weird project that we don't even know as an audience what they're working on. So that's part of the mystery. And then, but Tremel Tillman, he brings out the comedy element as their
Oh yeah,
supervisor, and also like I he's scary while also being funny. It's a very
yeah,
impressive
love it.
performance from someone who was not aware of prior to the show. And Patricia Arquette also, obviously, fantastic actress and has plenty of experience working with Ben Stiller as the supervisor, one level above him. Um, Kills it as well. So pumped to see the mystery box continue to open and see what exactly is going on in Lumen Industries in season 2, Severance.
Heck yeah.
All right, my friend. Number 1. Um, I could confidently say if Corey was with us still, this would be the number 1 show still on
100%.
Team Live Breathe Film. We have for number 1, Doug ranked it number 3. I rank it number 1, and I will posthumously rank this as number 1 for Corey. We have The Last of Us returning for season 2 on HBO in April. We are getting the first part of an adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2, the video game. And boy, is it going to raise hell when
Man,
it comes out in April. If it follow, I mean, it's going to follow the video game to a degree based on trailers. Um, it's going to be, it's going to be, audiences don't know what they're in for if they did not play the video game. Just like video game fans did not know what they were getting into when they played The Last of Us Part 2 back in summer of 2020, after a 7-year gap between video game installments. We now a 2-year gap between TV seasons, and that's even felt long.
yeah, it's definitely gonna. I suspect it's gonna be controversial. I don't think it's gonna be as controversial probably as it was on the video game,
No, I don't
um,
think so either. But it will be
but
controversial.
it will be controversial. It will be talked about this season as a whole. Um, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they pull it off. We've gotten like kind of like a teaser trailer at this point, but not an actual full trailer. Um,
We've gone in two, yeah, like two. I would say two
Two kind of
teaser
like
trailers.
teasery, like they haven't
Yeah,
really shown us too much.
no,
I don't know how much they're going to show or not show, just because there's some things I think they're probably trying to keep under wraps. But yeah, I mean the first season was great. There was a couple of things that we had talked about before that I think were kind of misses in season 1, and then I thought it felt a little rushed towards the end. So I think kind of like some of the imperfections of The Last of Us season 1, um, plus being a little bit cautiously optimistic on how they're gonna pull off some of the storyline in season the part 2 of the game. It's probably why I didn't
Yeah,
rank this number one. But yeah, I mean, we all love this Live Breathe film as a whole. Me, you, Corey, all loved watching and talking about season one and just had a
yeah. But
blast.
I mean, it blew away our expectations. I think we've noted how it's a great companion piece to the video game, and the fact that it's not like a 100% straight adaptation. It does things differently that makes it unique from the video game, and makes both, like, they're not 100, like, completely equal parts. One will There's certainly people that would prefer the video game versus the TV show, and vice versa, but they're they're both like master classes, and it has to do with the fact that the creator of the video game is one of the main people working on the show, Neil Druckmann. And
Yeah,
then he did a great job bringing on Craig Mazin as showrunner,
who's
who
great.
previously worked on Chernobyl
Chernobyl,
for HBO,
so
and
good.
yeah, and they're just crushing it together so far. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey will be back as Joel and Ellie. Um,
Great dynamic. They've killed the Joel Ellie dynamic feeling of between those two characters. I thought was perfect. But like you said, they're not carbon copies of the Joel and Ellie
Not at
that
all.
we know from the video game.
Yeah, and then for season two, they're adding. I mean, the second teaser showed a lot of Caitlin Dever's character from part two. So it's a new character to the show. Her name is Abby. Um, Big part of the video game. So she was a big part of the second teaser trailer. But we also have Jeffrey Wright reprising his role as Isaac from the video game. Catherine O'Hara has an undisclosed guest role. Looks like a therapist based on the first trailer. Um, Young Mazzino from Beef is on the show as a character named Jesse. Isabella Merced from Alien Romulus is in the show as a new character, Dina. So for people who aren't familiar with the show, with the Last of Us Part 2 video game, you're going to be very familiar with these characters soon enough. Um,
Yep.
since they are splitting it in we don't know how many seasons, whether it's going to be either 2 or 3 seasons based on what they've said. And it's only 7 episodes. It's tough to know exactly how they're going to break this game out in comparison to the first game, which
Yeah.
is a much more straightforward game to begin with. We kind of knew where season one was going to go.
Yeah. Although like season or the second video game kind of it'll be interesting because the second video game the way that things kind of move from perspective of different characters, you kind of like replay a similar time period over again. It's just going to be like a very it's not going to work in that type of style isn't going to work I think for the TV show. So I think
Yeah,
it's going to have to feel different than the second one just
yeah.
because I think it's
TV is a different medium than video,
exactly.
so they'll have to make some adjustments to make it work. And like you very much alluded to the fact that it's not a straightforward video game. Um,
Not at all.
Part one is a very straightforward game, so it made for a very straightforward season. Part two there is not straightforward, and they're going to have to make some adjustments for it to work on television. And that's starting with the fact that and it's a much longer video game, hence it being many more seasons. At
Yeah,
least at least one more season than the last one, probably two, based on what they've said so far. But yeah,
for sure.
what are you most excited about the season, without
Um,
spoilers?
yeah, I think I'm the most excited about just kind of see. I'm most interested in seeing how they pull off um, the story.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think there's a lot of interesting things they can do there, and then I'm just kind of the controversial aspect. I'm excited to see that play out in film and just see how audiences receive it. I think is probably the most excited their thing that I'm most interested in with this one. How about you?
I would probably say I'm most excited to see how the new actors come across portraying the characters in part two.
Yeah.
And if they make any, like what types of changes they make to them. Clearly, in the case of Jeffrey Wright, they're not making changes when you're
Right.
going
Yeah.
right back to the source. Um, but I imagine there will be some changes made
Yeah.
to some
So,
of the other characters, whether it's looks, because there were plenty of different, a lot of
yeah. Just
characters in the
based on
first game look
casting, we
different.
could tell that they're changing some of the looks of some of the other characters.
Yeah, but I'd be interested to see if personality wise they make some adjustments to characters as well. And then yeah, the things that you were saying as well. I'm hyped. I mean, I played part 1 and 2 back to back in October to get ready for, well, just to experience those games again. I hadn't played part 2 since back when it came out, and I liked it so much more the second time. So I'm jacked up to see how they adapt it on television.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be a. It's. I mean, 2025 is just gonna be a awesome year for TV. It's just lots of great shows coming back, and this
Yeah,
is definitely one of them.
where it's an embarrassment of riches. Like the waiting is going to finally pay off for so many TV shows. So hooray for fans of good TV, because we got a good year ahead of us.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, that's a wrap for today. This has been Doug and Murph at Live Breathe Film, signing off.